Hi, I'm Jim and this is Jim's Fix-It Shop, and we're back on Paul's machine. As you can see, I've got everything cleaned up and disassembled as far as I can. Here's the chain case. The old bearings are still in it. I've got to replace them and all the rest of the parts. Now, some of these parts are completely different from the new ones, especially this hexagon tube. The gear comes off of it, and it's got two little crimps. It looks like they just hit the corners of this tube with a hammer so the gear wouldn't come all the way off. So I ordered parts with these part numbers, and this is what came. The only problem at this point is you can see the tape from the factory, from Parts Tree, matches more or less the box. It's fiber reinforced with strings, I guess. And now you can also see the shiny clear tape, and it's on both ends of the box. So I'm thinking either somebody opened this box or it was busted open, and I'm wondering how many of my little bitty parts am I missing? So before I try to make a claim on this, we got to open it, but I'm not going to disturb the ends. So I want to leave them just as they are. So we're going to cut the box. I don't want to stick the knife blade all the way out. I just barely got the point sticking out. I just want to cut the cardboard. If I have to make a claim on some parts that are lost, I want to have the ends intact just the way I received them. The blade doesn't want to stay where I want it as far as sticking out. Not going around here very straight. Okay. This is just all packing. Who knows who put this in here? I will call Parts Tree Monday and ask them how they packed this box. Now, you gotta know all of the tricks, I guess, from the way companies sell their tools or sell their parts. This axle for this older machine, when you look the parts up on Parts Tree, it is sold as a kit. You get both axles and this little spacer. And to get that ordered the way they have it wrote up, the part was back ordered with no ETA of when it was going to be available. So I know what part that they ordered, or that they were going to order for me. So I looked it up under a different model number, and I ordered them separately, and they were in stock. So how do you figure that? Here's the little, pretty well crushed. This is the spacer that goes between the two gears. You can get, they're in stock separately, but they're not in stock together. And it's the same price, whether you buy a kit or you buy the 2 axles separate. Here's the other one. And yes, they come nicely powder coated now. The only problem is some parts, and this will probably be one, won't fit because of the powder coat is so thick. So I may have to strip that powder coat off. This is about 745. And it's only about 2.5 to 3 thousandths bigger. But that sure don't want to fit on there. Well, there we go. I think it just had a little gob of paint on the end. Now, a little secret I can give you. I have a company that does all my powder coating, and once you get to know these guys, they'll tell you some of their tips that they have. And if you ever try to remove powder coat, you can hardly sandblast that stuff off. It is one of the toughest paints they ever came up with. But if you the way they remove it is they put the part in an oven and bake it. And that destroys the paint. And when it comes out of the oven, I think they set around 500 degrees. You can just about blow it off with an air hose. It just totally destroys the paint. We got our big gear that came in. Got our 2 new boots. Maybe I should get a pencil here. Dust cap, 2 bearings for the bottom of the chain case, 2 bearings for the top of the chain case, Belleville washer, seal for the small end of the axle, seal for the big end of the axle. Much in that bag. That's the O-ring, thrust washer, dust cap for the other end of the axle, another O-ring, and another Belleville washer. Now, some things I have in stock and I didn't have to buy through this order. 2, 4, 6, 8. Supposedly I should have 19 parts. Apparently we got them all. So the only issue I'm debating right now, might as well just get this stuff out of my way right now, huh? Is this is going to line up like this one, or am I going to have some machining to do on these new parts? Not bad. Not bad. these line up, which I had an old axle assembly just like this out of another machine, and I had it sitting on here, and that didn't line up very good at all. This gear looks bigger diameter than that gear. I hope that ain't a problem. I don't really feel like making a gear. I'll check this. That's a little smaller. Shorter, I should say. Now, where did I put my... I don't know what the deal is with this. This is about 2 inches, 200 thousandths. It's probably 15 thousandths larger in diameter, which shouldn't hurt a thing, but it sure looks bigger sitting there next to it. And at least these line up. Again, the other axle assembly I had over here, these things did not line up. They were about 3/16 of an inch farther away than the original. But these seem to line up pretty good. I might get lucky and actually be able to get this thing put together without a lot of work. Now, I had him send me measurements of his rear case, and it's the same size. Mostly, I don't think they've ever actually changed the rear case on these machines. And I have one sitting over there that's been stripped down because I want to rebuild that machine and sell it. So I'm going to use that rear case to assemble the fenders on and put the drivetrain together and make sure everything fits with no binding or slop. And then I'll take it off and box it back up in his box and ship it back to him. So I guess first thing is I'll put the differential together and see if everything works properly in that. After I put the gears and everything on this thing. That thing's all dusty and dirty. It's a lot better shape than his is, I'll have to say that. The next problem is gaskets. The gaskets that came on here, I want to keep that, were paper. They were not cork. And this is actually a piece of the gasket. And it is about 35 thousandths thick. So it's right around a 32nd of an inch. The cork gaskets we have today are 65 thousandths thick. So that's twice as thick as the original. So what is that going to do for spacing? It may help me out because this original case, the way it was assembled, is the bolt went through from the outside. This little space, well, it's not a spacer, it's what the gear spins on. And that's the way it was together. It did not have any O-rings or Belleville washers to keep this from leaking. Now they're going to take up space. I don't know if I'm going to have room to get them in there. I'm hoping with the extra thickness of this cork gasket, I'll be able to use the O-rings and the washers and seal this so it doesn't leak on Paul. Apparently back in the day, they didn't really care if they leaked or not. Another thing they have that are different on these, I don't have a case over here to show you, but you can see the number of bolts they got around the chain case, or not the differential. I'm looking at the chain case, and that's the same way. The number of bolts they have, well, apparently they found out that wasn't enough. So the new chain cases have twice as many bolts on the bottom side when your machine is down on its wheels to stop that from leaking. And the same with the differential. You can see the number of holes. Here's the newer gasket. See how many holes are down on the bottom compared to this? So you only need about half of them. It won't hurt to use this. If it was the other way around, I would have to punch a bunch of holes to be able to use it. And this material is what I make some gaskets out of. This is about 30 thousandths thick, about the same as this stuff. This is an actual piece. This is about 37 thousandths, and this is about 30 thousandths. So if worst comes to worst, I'll have to leave the O-rings out, and I'll have to make my own gaskets. You can see I made it's a missing piece here. I made a carburetor gasket out of that for one I couldn't find. You can buy that material down at your auto parts store. Comes in a roll, a little tip. As soon as you get it home, open it up, set it flat, and put something heavy on it, because it's really hard to work with it when it's coiled up like a spring. So I don't know how much of this I'm actually going to film. I might just do it in steps as I put it together. And we'll see how it comes out. So see you in the next one.